Welcome to this special surprising episode of Eager to Know. Today's episode is clowning. Yes, clowns and clowning. First, I'm visited by Sneff, who is a professional clown, and then I meet Jeff. And Jeff discusses all aspects of this interesting craft. I had a lot of questions, and it was something that I knew nothing about. So it was a very interesting experience for me. One note, I normally do a pre interview with my guests so we can sort of like figure out the landscape of what we're going to talk about. I did not do that this time. So I was learning about this topic and my guest as the interviewed unfolded. So we are going to be learning together on this episode. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, my name is Sneff.
Sneff, nice to see you.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well,
Welcome.
oh my god. May I?
Of course you can. I don't know what you're asking to do. Oh, my slippers.
Oh! Are you seeing this? Oh!
I do.
May I?
Of course you can.
Oh!
They might be a little smelly.
Came right off! Like a glove!
That's incredible.
Wow. May I?
Of course you can.
Wow. Hi. Who are you? Oh, was it this?
Is someone calling you?
I think so. Hello? Yeah. It's me. What? Oh. No way. Oh my. Right now? But I'm like at this. Okay. All right. I'll be there. Okay. Okay.
no.
Okay. Bye. Love you. Bye. Bye. I'm so sorry.
what's-
I gotta go.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, this was.
This
Wow.
was awesome.
Cool.
Sure, but you don't have any clown germs, do you?
That's good. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Rick, oh man.
Hi.
I'm so sorry I'm late.
No problem. I had a...
Weirdest thing happened.
What happened?
I was walking on the way here, and this weird clown like ran into me. I was like in a rush, and I was trying to get out the door, and he was like, "You got to take this shoe. Do you know the guy up there?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Have your shoe."
Tell me about your experience of performing as a clown. What does that mean to you? Is it a way for you to express a part of you that you can't in everyday life? Is it creating something new? Just tell me about that.
It's been different things at different times in my life. I've been doing it for a little over 10 years. I guess the best way to put it is I've studied this particular style of clowning called pachinko clowning. It was started by Richard Pachinko. He was a Canadian clown who studied around the world and
This makes me so happy. When I think that there's people that are like developing nuclear warheads, the fact that there's someone out there who's developing a clown training platform just makes me so happy. Sorry.
Yeah, it restores some faith in the world for sure. I mean, it did when I first found out about it. I was just like, "Oh, like this is incredible! This is it! Like this is incredible!"
And were you familiar? You were obviously familiar with clowns. What was it about it that activated you? Was there something about it that made you think, "Ooh, this is it. This is an avenue for me"?
Yeah, it was kind of a weird situation. I just started seeing it pop up everywhere or in a lot of places in my life at the time. I was reading a book that I was really interested in that had clowns in it. I was reading several books actually, and I think 3 or 4 of them
And they
had
just so happen to have
they
clowns.
just so happened they were unrelated books,
Interesting.
not having anything, they weren't focused on clowning at all.
Understand, but it was like an
And it
element.
was coming up in movies, it was coming up in random conversation. So at a certain point I was like, all right, there's something going on with this clown stuff. And I
Interesting.
started to get a little curious. And I was reading this another
You
book.
were clown curious.
I was clown curious. Yeah. I was reading this book. It's called Metagenealogy. It's a book about healing and transforming kind of passed down traumas and things you get stuck in your life. He shared this story about how he grew up in Chile and he had a really rough relationship with his father growing up. His name's Alejandro Jodorowsky, and one day he had this impulse to have a cobbler in the town make him a pair of clown shoes. And he knew that his dad was in the circus back in the day. So he had this cobbler make this beautiful like leather clown shoes, like very, long traditional kind of like clown shoes. And he just went and like wore them and walked around the town. He was like a poet at the time, and he was experimenting with doing all these like, what do you call, like poetic acts.
Okay.
And so this was this poetic act, and he had this impulse and he was walking around, and as the day went on, he just became more and more despondent because like nothing was happening. And
Meaning he wasn't getting a reaction?
Nothing. Yeah. He just, he had an impulse and he thought something was going to happen, and he was just, nothing was happening. And he sat down on this park bench and he was just feeling really bummed. And this older gentleman sits down beside him or says, "Hey, oh, I like your shoes there." And he goes, "Yeah, thanks. Like I had somebody make them for me." And he goes, "Ah, returning to your roots, are we?" And he's like, "What?" And he was like, "You're Jodorowsky's boy, aren't you?" And he goes, How did you know that?" He's like, "I was in the circus with your father." And he starts telling him all these stories about his father, and the guy was like, like, you like, this is you're like on the right path, like keep going with this. And
Okay.
he like had this amazing connection with this man. And
Okay.
I don't know what it was, just something about that story, and then connecting it with the clown stuff that was popping up just really like stuck in my mind. And I was feeling really stuck at the time with feeling social anxiety in certain situations. I just felt like I kind of like just had a hard time connecting with people and opening up, and I would just kind of get anxious. And so one day I decided I'm going to go to work as a clown. And I had looked up some clowning stuff kind of on YouTube and came across some.
Can I ask what was your job?
Okay, so it was the job at the time. I worked for this farm.
Because you're a carpenter now, so
Yeah.
showing up as a work,
Yeah,
at a
maybe
work
wouldn't-
site with a tool belt and a clown nose could be a little disturbing to your coworkers. So, but it was not that.
No, I was working for a farm. I was their CSA coordinator. Do you know what a CSA is? It's community supported agriculture. So farms will basically have they'll have like some location where you come and pick up a share of
I'm
veggies
familiar
like
with that.
every week.
Right.
So I basically just helped unload all these veggies that got delivered in front of this huge church.
And you showed up in full clown?
And then I would just help people weigh out their share of veggies throughout the day for like, 6-hour day. So I showed up completely, like I kind of put together like a costume, and I painted my face. I had just moved into this room in this collective house I lived in, and the only thing in the room was, in the closet there was a little tub of clown white face paint. was just this other like weird connection. Like
Wait,
I
you
don't,
mean that wasn't yours?
it wasn't mine. It was just the only thing left in the room.
That's
I don't know
crazy.
who left it there.
Uh,
So I, did that, and my roommate had some other makeup that I
the universe
used.
is conspiring to make you into a clown.
Yeah, it felt that way. So I showed up. I wrote it on a note because I didn't know like how to talk or engage in
Okay.
clown. So I was just like, I'm just gonna be silent.
Okay.
And I wrote a note that said Jeff is sick, and so he sent me instead. And
Your coworkers must have fucking loved
so I worked with this for the first like hour or so. I worked with this older woman. She must have been in like her late 70s. She was older, and she would help kind of like lay out the veggies and get things set up. And so I showed, or she wasn't there, but the driver had come from the farm, and he was just like,
And did you interact with people as not Jeff?
yeah, I was totally just I didn't know exactly what to do, so I just started doing
was improv.
things. I was
And how did that feel?
It felt incredible. So I just started unloading veggies and just kind of like doing it in this playful way with the guy, and then I handed this note to this woman, and I kid you not, to this day she does not know that that was me. The next time I went there, she was like, "Oh my God, Jeff, you missed it. There was this guy here, and it was incredible. He was this clown, and I can't believe you weren't here." And she just like sincerely did not know it
awesome.
was me. And
And what did you, that must have felt incredible.
I was shocked. I was just like, really? And I was like, kind of like, oh, is she like making fun? And I like questioned her a little bit, and she like was, yeah, she was like genuinely just like, so that was cool. But also like, I remember halfway through the day there was a lull, and I had just been interacting with people, for like 3 hours straight, just not talking, but just playfully helping them, do their veggies. And some people did not want to believe, they were just like, I'm not registering that this is a clown. I'm gonna get my veggies. I'm gonna go over here.
Yeah, because
And
there's the unsettling nature.
yeah, and then some people brought their kids, and their kids were just like connecting with me and just loved.
What is it like what was that like with the kids?
Oh, it's great. They were all into it. They all didn't want to leave, and they all wanted to just play.
And you could see the way their faces lit up.
Yeah, I mean, they were just like, the first time they walked up these steps, and they like kind of turned the corner, and they were like, and like some of them were like a little hesitant at first, but then after we started interacting, like they just wanted to play the whole time. And like I just had a ball, playing with them and playing with the adults. And
were you a playful person in general, like when you were not as a clown? So that wasn't you. So you were comfortable being a playful person.
Yeah, I definitely was a playful person, but I had trouble bringing that out, I think, especially if it was like a stranger. Like I'd say in general, like it just takes time for me to kind of like warm up to people.
Right.
In that sense.
And this is a way to make it.
But like with the clown, it's instant. Like I put on the nose, and that is not there. Yeah, there was this lull, and I was like, oh my God, like what just happened? Like I was like not caught up to kind of like what was actually happening. And I just was like, that was amazing. Like there's like something here. Like I need to like do this. And then 2 weeks later, I got an email from an acquaintance of mine that she was teaching a clown training. And I was just like, this is crazy. And it was in Philly, and it was like 2 months or a little over 2 months. It was like
Duration?
3 days. Yes, 3 days a week.
A clown intensive.
It's a very intense clown training. Very involved. But yeah, I took that, and it changed my life.
Changed
it was
your
like,
life.
Oh, for sure.
Interesting.
And that was what kind of got me starting really getting into performing and studying clown
So
more
change your life. That's
seriously.
obviously pretty.
Hmm.
That's a big set of words. So that's beyond just social anxiety.
Yeah,
It's beyond that.
totally.
How would you describe that? Why are you using those words? How would you? Why? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I think another part at the time, like I felt a certain relationship with my body, like, you know, again, like in certain circumstances, I could kind of like let loose in a different way and be able to, yeah, like move and dance and play.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it also changed kind of how I interacted with people and the world around me. I would find I could just connect with people and connect with, everything. Like the world started to become more alive than I presumed it was.
People are constantly looking for the thing that makes the world more alive to them.
Hmm.
So that's wonderful that you found something that isn't a pill or a bottle.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So could
Yeah.
we talk about your upcoming training?
So it's called clownimism. For me, clowning has been a kinship in that with animism and clowning, like a similarity there. And yeah, we're going to use sort of the pachinko clowning, some of the stuff in that technique, as well as the book I mentioned by
Oh,
Alejandro.
not that one, the other one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
I
metagenealogy.
can put a link on the episode for people to check that
Great.
out.
So there'll be a little bit of that stuff. I've also studied this thing called Buto dance, and we'll do a little bit of that. But it's all of these forms that, in some way, to me, relate to this, to animism and the world sort of being alive in a way of feeding the connection to those things in your life, to the connection you have to everything around you. I'm attempting to look sort of outside of the frame of reference of how it can be helpful to us, or how it can be helpful to the participant. And part of that is kind of shifting the focus onto the connection to everything else, like outside of you, and the whole world outside of you, and that um not necessarily needing to come at it from the focus of like, what am I going to get out of this, or how is this going to help me in my life personally. And not that can't happen or won't happen, but it's just not the focus. I think often in um lots of different things in the world that people get into, it can have an effect that is beneficial to you, or it impacts a part of your, I don't know, personality or how you move through the world.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in exploring things outside of the realm of the personal, and part of that is I feel like we're awash in that in our society right now, where
100%. Everything you
yeah,
hear is about how to make me feel better, feel different,
totally.
feel more. What is the routine? And that's fantastic that this is
Hmm.
not about that. So then let me understand, if it's not
Sure.
about making me feel more authentic, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
it's about what? It's making me feel more connected with the outside physical world?
Yeah, or maybe like what I mean, it's really an experiment in wondering. I would say that would be like kind of the focus that's centered on the participants, wondering about a lot of these things, and not necessarily trying to get to some outcome, or trying to get to some clear understanding or goal, but really trying to just sit with and be in a state of wonder about the world, and then also guiding people into a connection or a way of being with everything around them, and seeing what happens when you do that, and seeing what happens when you have that relationship to all of these things and people around you in a way that they're alive, almost in the same way that you would have a relationship with a friend or a family member where, like, hey, I want to invite you over to dinner this week, and like I want to feed you. Like, how do we have that same connection to a book, or how do we have that same connection to the beautiful hill and outside of our window, or the stream that we walk by on our walks every week? How do we start to have that relationship in a way where we're on, not just on the taking end and consuming end of our interaction and relationship to things, but we're can also be giving and feeding, and I think we've sort of lost that ability and way of connecting with the world around us, and so it's trying to see if we can figure out a way through this clowning way of playing with and being with the world that can do that. I don't know. We'll see. For me, part of, my experience with clowning has been that, like, those are sort of the places that the clown can really shine or have a connection to, like, unlikely places. There's this clown, I forget his name. I think he was part of the original Big Apple Circus. And I was listening to him talk once, and he said, clowns are like a bouncy ball. Like one of those hard, like, bouncy balls you throw and they bounce everywhere.
Super Ball.
Super Ball.
Super
Yeah,
Balls.
you used to get them in the little 25-cent machines. He's like, clowns are like a Super Ball. They need a hard surface to bounce off of. And so, it's like the man-made kind of, like, I would say, like, hospital clowning, which is something that I've done some of. It's a perfect environment for a clown because it's this sterile, environment. Everything's designed so it can be cleaned easily kind of just, like, thrown together, cheaply. And, it's not really designed for it to, like, you to feel, like, great in, and, it's a often very intense, and, like, in a lot of times grief and sadness and, real intensity and fear are part of it. But clown can come in and it, like, just sticks out like a sore thumb, but in this way that's, like, the attention gets drawn there, and it can really bring something into that space that just really, like, transforms it very quickly and easily.
I can see that.
And so that for me is kind of like the thing of, like, this way of connecting with the world where, like, like, we can do this anywhere. Like, it doesn't have to necessarily just be in, like, in nature or, like, a beautiful place, but it's a way of connecting to, like, every part of our world, and, like, some of, like, the darkest and most maybe, like, difficult places to be in. There's this clown that I've done a little bit of work with, Patch Adams. I don't know if you've heard of him. There was a
movie made.
Yeah,
I never saw the movie.
Robin Williams played him in the movie, but he's a real person, and he was a doctor who went through medical school and started playing around with clowning with people he was learning to treat, and he found that it was this incredible connection that he could have with people, and it was actually like helping them get better in certain circumstances. Just the way that he was able to connect with them like that. And yeah, it was improving. He saw that it improving just like their situation, their outlook, and in some cases like their conditions. And so he started playing with that. And but he went on to lead these sort of clown expeditions all around the world, and going to places that have been and are in like war torn scenarios, or are just an extreme.
Is this in the movie too?
No. This is like what happened after the movie. But
I'm just curious. I'm thinking I may want to watch the movie, but it's
a great movie. Yeah, definitely recommend the movie. But yeah, he started leading. So he brings people to these areas that are just like very, very intense, and they'll go in and clown with people, and it's incredible. I went with him on a trip in Mexico, and we went around to all these different, schools and, churches and places.
So wait, you traveled with the Patch Adams?
Yeah. He was in Massachusetts, not too far from here, doing a thing, and he brought us around to a bunch of different hospitals and nursing homes. And then, I went on a trip with him to Mexico with a group of people, and we just clowned at all of these different places. We went to a women's prison, which was incredible. In
Mexico?
In Mexico, yeah.
What was that like?
It was incredible. It was really, really, really amazing to see people some of whom had never really clowned, or haven't had like a traditional like training in clowning, go. And then that's kind of like his philosophy, is like anybody can clown, and they don't give like a ton of like training per se. I mean, we did like exercises, but he's kind of just like, like on like in the experience, like in the field kind of training, where, we just went out to these different places and, dressed up, had noses, and interacted with people.
Hey, tell me
and
about
it was incredible.
Tell me about the women in the prison. Like, what did you see them transform in terms of their? Tell me about that. I'm curious.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I've been in a prison before, but certainly not in Mexico. And, they let us in with a bunch of things which like would not fly in America.
Meaning props?
Yeah, we had like props and guitars, and I think we had like even balloons and like all kinds of, I mean, like,
and were you performing for a group? Like everyone was pulled together, or was it
there was
one-on-one?
Different situations. So we happened to show up on a day where they had it was like a visitation day. So there was a bunch of folks who were in this giant courtyard. This is the biggest women's prison in Mexico. It was in Mexico City somewhere. And so there was this huge courtyard, and then their families were coming to visit them. So there was all these tables, and then there was also some children there. So it was kind of great that we were there on that day. And the first interaction I had, it felt a bit chaotic and overwhelming at first, because there was just so many people. There was inmates, families, guards, and then this group of clowns, and it was just kind of like chaos. And I wandered over to this table, and there was this woman and her elderly mother sitting down at this table, just the two of them. Huge spread of food, all these plastic bags filled with food, and then some already out on the table. And I know just a very little bit of Spanish, and So I started, talking to them and, just playfully kind of interacting a little bit and not, just testing the waters a little bit. And, they just kind of like treated me like, like anybody, they were just like, oh yeah, like come join us. And they're like, sit down, sit down. So I like sat down, and the mother starts making me a plate of food, and I was like, oh no, 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 thank you. Like, uh, muchas gracias. No, 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 no. Um, and she looked at me, and she didn't say a word, but she just gave me these kind of like eyes, and I was just like, okay, yeah, like thank you, thank you. And like I have to eat
You
this
have
food.
to eat. Yeah.
And it was the best food that I had in Mexico
Right.
the whole time that I was there for like 2 weeks. It was incredible.
Of
And
course, it was all homemade.
yeah, it was amazing. And we just sat down, and the more we started connecting, we were just, like laughing, and other clowns were coming over, and we were interacting with them, and it just became very playful and vibrant. And for the rest of the time that I was there, we were there for like a couple hours. Every now and then, if I was somewhere, if I could see them, no matter how far away I was, I would like, try and look over at them, and they would, at a certain point, it became this game, and they were like kind of looking for me, and I would, very enthusiastically wave at them. And it just, the entire time, like, until I was leaving, like I kept running back out and saying goodbye to them, and they just, kept popping out, and we just had this very sweet, interaction that was like not with words,
Right.
but like I got so much joy out of it, they got so much joy out of it, and it was stupid and simple. We were just like waving to each other.
But sometimes that sounds like a moment. That sounds like a moment in your life that's incredible.
Yeah,
Something
it
so
was
simple
it was
and complex.
yeah, like, yeah, like you just said, like it was both like, the things that I was doing and other clowns were doing were like profoundly stupid. They were like simple, kind of like funny, goofy, stupid things, but they had this, yeah, like very profound impact on people. And a few of us were asked to go inside where they were, there was women in cells, and also in smaller areas where they were like having food and they were making things. And yeah, it was just, I mean, some of these clowns were like really amazing clowns, and watching them were just people were lighting up. I mean, they were just, you could feel the shift in energy, like, after just a couple minutes of us being in there, and just like even waving to people, like there would be these little like slits in the wall, and there would be like, inmates there who are just kind of like behind the wall, and you would like peer through, and all of a sudden they would see this like just this clown with a nose like peering through this little like tiny little thing, and they're like, what is it? Like, and it was just this like amazing little, little moments,
That's
and
fantastic.
it was great. Yeah,
Fantastic.
it was really sweet.
And thank you for being the first guest in the new set. You were not familiar with, I was recording these interviews at Fact TV, and Fact TV is responsible for all of this equipment, and this will air on Fact TV. But traditionally, recording in their studio, it's like a desk, and it can feel a little, I don't know. This is a much more chill, relaxed environment. Like, this is fantastic. I completely forgot that we were recording.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's going to do for the end product, but I did completely forget. I thought we were just hanging out in my art studio talking. But thank you so much. This has been really interesting. And this was definitely, I'm glad that I didn't ask you questions before we did this interview. This went in directions that I didn't expect. And it uncovered things that I was not aware of. I don't know if those are clown things or if those are Jeff things. I think a lot of it is how you relate to clowning. I think I'm feeling a lot of your personality, your being, and your relationship to the world is kind of coming through clowning. That's kind of what I think. But thank you so much, and this is really great.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is great. I feel like I don't get to talk to people about, this stuff super often, and it's really a joy to get to do that. And yeah, thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome.